this. Holy cow. Okay. All right, so uh, minicam is what I'm trying. Okay, okay. My microphone, is that Yeti or is that minicam?
Medicam. And then you got to tell Medicam that you have to use your microphone.
Okay. So do we look for bubbles again? No? What? How do I tell?
Um, I'll look at people hang up. They can tell us if they're hearing anything. I guess I'm not really sure at the moment. Hopefully, actually, but I'm thinking about something else at the moment. I need to switch it to this view to our slide. I can worry about a lower third at the moment.
No.
You can put a lower third on your camera.
Um,
Yeah, I should be able to tell. If you're talking, I should be able to see your bubbles.
okay. Can you see my bubbles?
Nope.
Hello?
You
Hello?
should be able to see your own bubbles in the hangout.
I don't see any bubbles, dude.
Now, can you turn your microphone on in Minicam?
I've got it on a Medicam. I've got the microphone Yeti, stereo microphone on in Yeti cam. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Get up and out of your seat. Playlist. Okay. Audio. Microphone. Hello, hello. So there's little bubbles there.
All right.
Hello, 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 hello. They're hard to see, but I can see little bubbles there.
Okay.
So that means you are getting microphone there. And now in the Hangout, 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 Hangout. See the bubbles?
Yeah. All right.
So
Hello, I'm Shane from Serenely Speaking podcast. As you know, we here at Arisen Strength are not one to turn a blind eye to the tough chat people face. And tonight is no exception. Because tonight, the Arisen Strength family will dedicate this next hour to bringing awareness to the subject of domestic abuse. We believe that far too many are subjected to this way of living. Whether it be fear, danger, or helplessness, this subject is not one to care for the color of our skin or any other category. Because of the serious nature of this subject, we believe there will be portions of the show that some could find triggering. It is not our intention to promote or exploit the fear of those who have experienced the darkness of domestic abuse, but more to shine a light on a subject that we feel cannot be tolerated. So, in respect to those that we're trying to help the most, we'll be giving ample warning before we go over that we feel may be triggering. And we'll let you know the length of time it'll be aired. That way, you can have the option to turn the volume down or to join the show again shortly after the footage. It's important to stress that we are not doctors nor are we therapists. We are just using our experiences and our caring hearts to help others' lives. Domestic abuse is often hidden behind closed doors. And what you don't know may not be hurting you, but it is hurting someone else. Help us shine the light where it belongs. It should be. Okay.
You have to put your mic on a minicam.
It's on.
Oh.
Okay. We tried to do something. It didn't work out all that well. We're gonna work this out. Okay. I apologize. As you can see, we're doing a number of different things with the interactive studio. We're doing a lot of different things with the Arisen Strength studio here. And this is an important show. I don't want it to seem as if like we're just doing experimenting on this show, but we did the best that we could. It didn't work out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the best that we can with our own Arisen Strength and bring it about. Folks, my name is Shane Schultz from Serenely Speaking, and this is the Arisen Strength podcast. As you know, we here at Arisen Strength are not one to turn a blind eye to the tough challenges and struggles that people face. And tonight's show is no exception. Because tonight, the Arisen Strength family will dedicate this next hour to bringing awareness to the subject of domestic abuse. We believe that far too many are subjected to this way of living, where whether it be fear, danger, or helplessness, this subject is not one to care of the color of our skin, or the age of our lives, or our monetary value, or any other category. Because of the serious nature of this subject, we believe there will be portions of the show that some could find triggering. It's not our intention to promote or exploit the fear of those who have experienced the darkness of domestic abuse. But more importantly, we want to shed the light on a subject that we feel cannot be tolerated. So in respect to those who we're trying to help the most, we'll be giving an ample warning before we go over the content that we feel may be triggering, and we'll let you know the length of time it'll be aired. That way, you can have the option to turn the volume down or to join the show again shortly after the footage. It is important to stress that we are not doctors, nor are we therapists. We are just people who are trying to use our own experiences and our caring hearts to help others just like us. Folks, domestic abuse is often hidden behind closed doors, and what you don't know won't hurt you, but it is hurting someone else. That's what Arisen Strength is trying to do for the awareness of domestic abuse. Help us shine the light where it belongs. Wayne, we got off to a rough start, but we're going to have a great show. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Shane. Yeah, it's a little rocky there. We're trying some different things, and like you said, we hope it doesn't interfere with the seriousness of this discussion. The little video that we were going to present at the end, you were able to sort of capture it again and do it live. I think we got the point across. This is a serious show, and we're talking about some touchy subjects. And that's like, as the kids say today, trigger warning. Things could come up if this is a really, really sensitive issue for you. I think we're gonna have some. It might be too intense for some people. I mean, I think there's just no other way around that. You cannot talk about this subject and not make it too intense for some people. We certainly dial it down. It's not our intent to make it intense for everybody. We're not trying to exploit anybody. We don't want to lure you in here and then have you feel really bad about the show. That's not our intent at all. Really, we should apologize out front if that happens. That is certainly not our intent. We're doing the best we can here.
Yeah. So it's just Wayne and myself tonight. We've been doing this for a while now, and it's not anything that we can't handle. We've had a couple instances as to where people got taken away doing their own thing and so forth. So that those things do happen. But we're running like clockwork. We're going to start at 8, and we're going to do the best that we can with the show as best as possible. We got a Charles update. Charles, of course, is our good friend. He also is a staff member. Is to where Charles went in and he had a kidney transplant. One that he is quite atypical when it comes to his blood. So was very lucky in order to be able to get that opportunity. Everything went fine as far as the initial operation. Unfortunately, some things did go awry later on, and he had major complications. And to the point as to where we weren't altogether sure how things were going to turn out. Well, over these past couple weeks, going on now 3 weeks, Charles has been improving steadily over time. He's off of the ventilator, then he gets off of dialysis. He did have another operation in regards to his legs, so as to be able to have the circulation continue correctly down in his extremities. And now he is actually being moved to a specialist regarding transplants. So Charles is really in good hands. He's upbeat. He's doing the best that he can with things. And we're really looking forward to getting him back on the show so that we can have him not only in the show, but he can also be part of the 2 pages of which he's a strong admin in, and that's the essential needs group as well as the human factor. So, we're really looking forward to having him back. Charles, get better, and continue getting strong. People, whatever it is that you're doing, keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it until he's at home and on the road to recovery. So I very much appreciate that. Journey into the light.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
That was a lot of fun. We had a great time last this Monday night doing that over at Blog Talk Radio.
Yep.
8 p.m. Eastern time.
8 p.m. Eastern time.
And they have a chat room over there, and there's
Yep.
a lot of chat room regulars over there. I had a lot of fun with them. I'm looking forward to meeting up with them again this week. And we have a lot of fun in that chat room. But again, it's a very, very moving kind of spiritual hour. At least from last week, it wasn't an intense conversation. It was really kind of it's a very relaxing, empowering in that sense. I mean, sometimes it's good for the soul hour, and the people there are great. We had a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm being touted as the life coach basically there, and what I basically did was tell my story in a general sense, and there's plenty more to be talked about. So, we're going to be on that show for the remainder of the year. That's something that we've had planned for a little while, and we continue to be excited about that. So join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Blog Talk Radio. Just either search Journey into the Light network or look up Michael Long, of which is the host of Journey into the Light. And it will be a good time. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night's show. So tonight's subject is a tough one. This is particularly tough for myself personally. I've had personal experience in regards to domestic abuse, indirectly and also directly. So again, this is going to be a subject that's going to be informative, it's going to be empowering, and it's going to be impactful. It's not going to be one of our shows as to where we're going to, really get up on the motivation part and really, try to celebrate and everything like that. That's not the idea of the show. The show is really an awareness show to bring light to a subject that has a lot of darkness behind the closed doors. And Wayne, I know that you were looking forward to the show, but you had some reservations as well.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's like one of those topics that nobody's that not very many people are comfortable talking about, and I have to count myself in there. But that's exactly the point of it. We talked a little bit about shedding the light, shining the light, and the light really is the real, not shining the light. The silence is the ally of domestic violence, domestic abuse. Because by not talking about it, it stays behind closed doors. Right, this goes on in people's houses typically, and some of the flags are people don't talk about it. People cover it up. It's embarrassing, perhaps. It's humiliating. You have to just kind of turn. Or the same thing if you're the abuser. A lot of times you don't talk about how you abuse your partner. You just do it, and you kind of keep that to yourself. And a lot of abusers are actually very personable in public. They're even around their partner, their spouse. The public perception a lot of times is manipulated because it's that silence which is the biggest ally, and the biggest enemy, of course, would be then the light. And exposing this, talking about this, letting people know that they can talk about it. I think we have to do it. I mean, I'm very uncomfortable approaching this subject, but it's we're gonna get through it because it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, and when you say ally, it's an ally to the actual abuse. The silence is something that allows the abuse to not only continue but to escalate. And so we definitely want to bring the light to this subject. It's one that, like I said, is very it's very important to me to bring everything that we've got to this show, and as best as we possibly can. We're gonna try to do another video, and if hopefully it works. I do want to say that this is going to be a trigger warning. The video lasts for approximately 3 minutes. It is a famous video. It's a video called Lisa's Call. And this video is a 911 taping of a situation that happened at the home where a young 6-year-old was making the phone call to 911, describing what was going on at the home. Now, I'm not gonna pull any punches here. This video is definitely impactful, but I can also tell you, that it's not one of the worst ones, and we did that on purpose because we wanted to make the show still available to be seen by all. But we are going to show the video. It is 3 minutes long, so if you're watching and if you think that you're going to be triggered, give yourself 3 minutes, fast forward into the video, and jump right back on, and we're going to be all set from there. Okay, so Wayne, I know that you and I were both impacted by this video that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, this is it's well, I don't tape to listen to. It's but I think it tells a bigger story, and the trigger warning is the right thing. It gives about 3 minutes. But if you can stay with us through the 3 minutes, do listen, and we definitely want to talk about it on the other end.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start it again. It's about 3 minutes long, and here we go.
What is the name? Your father's name? He's my stepfather. Okay, how old is he? What's going on? Lisa? What's going on? Hey, Mommy. I'll take her to her. Okay, don't cry. We're going to get the police. Okay. Okay, now, where's your brother right now? Okay. They're on the way. I'll keep you on the line until they get there. Okay, is your front door open? Oh, no. Okay, then go on. Come back to the office. Come in. Okay. What's the big knockdown? What's the matter? Okay, the police are on the way, okay? Hello? Lisa? The police are on the way, okay? Oh my God, Daddy got the baby now! Yeah, Lisa, down. Lisa, hello?
We're back. That's a pretty impactful video. That it's called Lisa's Call. There's actually a longer version. It's approximately about 10 to 11 minutes long. That is an edited version, so as to be able to get everything kind of in a row and for obvious purposes. That video was pretty impactful when we were watching it, when we were researching what we were going to put on the show.
Yeah, that was it was 1991. Yeah, I think he's like that. It was, and this has been around for a while. The 3-minute version, I think if you listen to the 10-minute version, it actually goes on to where both the mother and the father get on the phone with the 911 operator, who, at least during the 10-minute, 11-minute version that we saw, the police are not there by the end of it.
Right.
But at least by the end of it, you don't have that sense that somebody is going to die in the next couple of seconds. I mean, that video, I mean, I was afraid for that. I was afraid for the lives of a lot of people while that video was going on.
Yeah.
In the second half, I mean, you just really get a sense that here's a very troubled family. But the mother, the father, the children. This is a very troubled family who's going to need a lot of help, and it really does kind of let us know that these situations, behind closed door part is that where before the parents start talking on the phone, you can hear what that's like. Imagine being that child, and then you get a little sense with the family, the mother. I mean, what was your impression of the mother and the father in their discussion afterwards?
Well, I mean, I had a different impression than what some might have had, maybe because of my experience that I've had. I thought what was happening was, and we're going to talk about this as part of, what are some of the obstacles that are in the way of helping somebody who is abused. And that is I thought that the mother started to rationalize the situation in order to protect her family. Specifically the baby, so I kind of started getting that impression. She started telling the young girl, the 6-year-old who made the phone call, Lisa, to be quiet and to stop, crying and so forth. So, I mean, again, it really depends on what perception that you're going to get. I mean, and it's going to differ from everybody. All I know is that it was impactful. We agree that this is not the first time. It's obviously been going on for quite some time. In fact, there was some articles, news articles that were in regards to this particular video that said that there were numerous situations that happened at that household. It's not the first time that Lisa called. So it was one of those things as to where that's something that happens often enough for Lisa to be very familiar with it, and to the point as to where she knew who to call, she knew what to say, and she knew what was going on. She knew everything about her father when it came to the club and everything. She knew all that, so. She's been exposed to that for quite some time, and unfortunately, she's not near the only one that's been through these types of things. Unfortunately, there's more families that are out there than what anybody would want to admit that go through this very thing.
Yeah, she was. I think even if you want to take kind of like the most gentle interpretation, in that there is no hitting in that family, just a lot of yelling. Oh, it's only yelling, and it's only the parents yelling at each other, and they don't hit the kids. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily the truth, but even if we kind of took that position, this girl is a victim of abuse. I mean, the sound in her voice, I mean, the thought that every time mommy and daddy raise their voices, that something terrible is going to happen. That's a thought she's having. This girl is going to be she probably ended up being I mean, I should project diagnoses, but we've mentioned before this word complex PTSD.
Oh, absolutely.
This girl's been through a war zone. She's a little girl exposed to a lot of things small children should not be exposed to. And even if it was just yelling, you could tell the effect it's had on that little girl. And, my heart breaks listening to it. Wow.
And I mean, and there was a lot said. I mean, children, they don't lie in those types of situations. They pretty much they're telling the truth about it. And when she had said that her sister, the 4-year-old, was knocked out, I mean, I wanted to go through the screen. I mean, I literally wanted to go through the screen. And what my I'll be honest with you, when I had heard that there's a longer version of this video, I wanted no part of it. I didn't want to hear it because I know how I am. And even right now at this given moment, my heart is pounding and my mind is racing and it's to the point. It's more my rescuing part of me, that I deal with, but it also does have some history for me, not that long ago, even, I mean, I've literally, in trying to help somebody, I've literally been in the scope of a rifle, I mean, and that's not something, to make light of. And but at the same time, it was worth it to me. At the time, it was worth it to me that I was going to be trying to help that person. And looking back at it, am I kind of putting myself at risk? Yeah, obviously I am. But the thing is that these types of situations, police don't want to deal with domestic issues. They'll tell you straight out. They will not make any quips about it. They will tell you the worst call that they want they want to hear about is going to a domestic violence issue. Because they really have no idea what's going on. They're often in a situation as to where it's kind of a circle. I mean, it's kind of like a cycle as to where there's abuse, then there's rationalization, then there's excuse making, and then there's pleading for it to just go away. And really a police officer really doesn't have any legs to stand under themselves. If the abuser says, no, I don't want to press charges, and in the meantime, their lives are in danger when they come into these things.
There are states that, they address that by saying, they have rules basically says if the police come to the house, somebody's going to jail. Yeah. We're not, and that's, boy, you should not be afraid to call the police if you're in a situation like that. Certainly, somebody's got to spend a night in jail. That's a small price to pay. If that's what it takes to get a break, sometimes you just need a physical separation between the parties for 24 hours to sort of start sorting out what they go on.
Sure.
Because it's we saw that video, a TED Talk. I love these TED Talks.
Yeah.
Technology, education, design. I don't know. Technology, entertainment, design. It's got some sort of weird name it stands for, actually. But you may have seen these TED Talks, and they're all kinds of topics. And one of them was, and I wish I had written the woman's name down. She wrote a book called Crazy Love about her experiences as a victim of domestic abuse, and really powerful stuff because she gets asked that question: why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave?
Yeah.
Why didn't you leave? She talked about a gun being held to her head nearly every single day for a year and a half.
Yeah,
this is a Harvard-educated woman. She went to Wharton School of Business, so you're talking major powerhouses of education. This is not a dumb woman. So people don't choose to stay because they're dumb. Do not think that a person who refuses to leave a domestic violence situation is dumb. It is not a question of intelligence. And her talks about 15, 16, 17 minutes. I guess I would look it up. You can just TED Crazy Talk, not Crazy Talk, Crazy Love, and you read the book. But that was something.
Yeah, it really was, and you know what? It was good to see that it was a quote unquote uptown relationship that she was talking about, and yet it had every single characteristic of everybody else's situation, whether they're uptown or whether they're homeless. If there's domestic abuse, there's domestic abuse, and it has characteristics, no matter what the case may be. Let's talk about some of the different versions of domestic abuse, because there's more than just one. You know, I mean, the one that's...
Yeah, I think you hear domestic abuse, and you're probably thinking of a woman with a black eye.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, that a lot of times that's the first thing, especially if you don't have that first-hand experience with it. But yeah, you're right, it goes much further.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the physical. And, you know, the thing that I in reading and doing the research, one thing that I've learned is that if it happens once, you better expect it to happen again. And it's not to say that it has to happen, but it's often that it's going to happen. We've talked about this. We've talked about this behavior when it comes to addiction and when it comes to recovery, is the fact that when we cross a line and when we get familiar with crossing that line, you know, it's something that we often revisit. And, you know, there's really no boundary in order to keep it from happening again. You know, and so, you know, it often escalates in situations when it comes to these types of issues.
Yes, at least when you don't get caught, you don't admit it.
Sure.
And you don't do the penance.
Yeah.
Whatever those lines, when you cross those lines and you don't shine the light on your own behavior, whether it is addiction, whether it's a lot of these other, you know, maladaptive things that we end up getting involved with, or something as devastating as some of these domestic violence things. Yeah, you cross that line once and you hear about it once. It's like being a drunk driver. This guy was driving drunk. You know, that wasn't the first time. I think it's the number's like 80. When I've seen, you know, drunk drivers who get caught had by their own admission done it about 80 times on average before they got caught. So these things, yeah, it's cool.
And they escalate. You know, it's one of those things as to where obviously sometimes eventually, you know, the abused ends up fighting back, or at least trying to fight back. And then what happens is that it escalates even further, because the abuser is feeling challenged, and they're trying to inflict, obviously, their will on another. So when they start getting resistance, well, they're going to try to push harder, and they're going or worse. And so it often escalates when it comes to physical abuse. It's often, now this is another thing, some people will sit there and say, well, she didn't have any bruises, or she didn't have, you know, any noticeable, you know, bruises or effects. Well, when it comes to domestic abuse, especially for abuse that's been continuing for quite some time, generally it's already been noticed, whether it be maybe a mark on the wrist, you know, from grabbing hold of the wrist too hard, or maybe, you know, or a slap in, you know, in the cheek area, somewhere where, you know, the makeup, you know, either can cover, or if it doesn't, you know, it would be known. So when abuse continues, generally the abuser starts to figure it out. I need to inflict myself on areas that aren't going to be seen, which is generally areas that are underneath clothing. You know, like the belly area specifically, for sure. The back area, you know, or the back of the thigh, you know, is another thing. You know, so these are it's one of those things as to where it's a continual thing. It's not, it's pre-thought out, and it's not something that just happens, you know, just because of an argument, or just because of one instance that something wasn't going right. You know, and another thing about physical abuse, often the one that's abused does not get care for it, whether it be that they're embarrassed, or whether they have fear that it's going to get worse if they go ahead and they get taken care of. Often that's the case. They don't go to the doctor in order to be able to tell people that something happened. I can tell you one example. somebody who worked for me. You know, it's like she came in one day and she said that she had a headache. And, you know, and I could tell that there was a little bit more than just a headache going on. And she said, well, you know, a cookie jar fell off of the shelf and hit her in the head. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's get you checked out. So I went ahead and we actually worked at a hospital. So it's like, so I had her go to the emergency room. Well, it turned out she had a concussion from this cookie jar. Well, she wasn't feeling well, and I told her, I said, take some time off. So she took the better part of a week off. She came back. She looked worse than what she started out as. Now, it doesn't take a lot for me to start thinking, you know, when it comes to this, because I'm very protective. But I started saying, and it comes to find out what it was, is that her abuser literally shut the truck door onto her head, and she ended up with a concussion again. And there was another incident as to where he had pushed her and she hit her head, back of her head, into the wall, you know, and yet she didn't want to tell me. She didn't want to tell nobody about it. She wanted to keep it, you know, to herself, because she was worried that people would start looking at her differently. She was worried that she was going to lose her job.
Yeah, it's all part of that conspiracy of silence.
Yeah.
You know, it's from choosing to abuse people in a way that's not noticed. So you said, like you said, to the people who are abused, not seeking the help that they need, because it opens the door to questions that they're not ready.
Right.
They're not prepared to answer. They're not ready to answer. They don't feel they can answer.
Right.
The support structures around people in abusive situations are so critically important, because the person has to feel like they can ask for help. If that support isn't out there, then whether they want to ask for help or not, they can't. Yeah. So maintaining these support structures, you know, these domestic violence shelters, counselors, talking about it on shows like this, where we bring it into the light, we shine a light on the subject, we say that it's out there and there is help, kind of gets that word out there, so that when somebody is trapped in a situation like this, they do start realizing, you know what, I can do something about this. I can, and that something in this case almost always is, I can ask for help. I can tell somebody, right, and I can tell somebody with the intention that I'm going to try and get some help for this situation. Because, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was obviously, you know, was willing. So that's physical abuse, and you know, that's the most common that we hear about, because it has a definite effect. But there are other versions of domestic abuse. Emotional domestic abuse. This is almost as devastating, if not more so, when it comes to physical. Generally, it's an undermining. It's where the abuser undermines the abused, especially when it comes to children that are involved into the relationship. Belittling is another thing, as to where they want to inflict their dominance over their prey, so to speak. So they belittle the person, or make them feel and look smaller to others, you know, and keeping them, you know, within their grasp, in their grips. Another thing is they're very embarrassing. They have no problem embarrassing the person that's being abused. They go out of their way in order to make sure that they look better, or they look more intelligent, or they look more strong, you know, by embarrassing the person who's abused, and often getting people around them, their friends, their family members, co-workers, whatever the case may be, often getting them involved, so as to be able to, you know, even inflict even more emotional distress. And then, of course, there's manipulating and controlling, which is, you know, I've had situations where person that needs to go to work. Everybody needs to go to work every day, right? So they go to get in their car. They can't find their car keys, you know, because the abuser took the car keys. The person wasn't able to go to work, but then as he came home, the first thing that he did is he said, well, you must have lost them. And then, of course, he found the keys, trying to make her be belittled. But the realization is that he took the keys so that she wasn't able to go to work. You know, these are definitely, you know, predetermined things. These are things that are manipulating. They're undermining, belittling, embarrassing. You know, to keep an abused person at bay to the abuser. Psychological abuse. Psychological abuse is menacing or threatening, which is often the case when it comes to these types of situations. Threatening with fear, or threatening with the fact that taking away something, whether it be materialistically or whether it be the children. We in the video with Lisa, you know, the father was threatening to take the baby away. You know what I mean? And that was just his part of being able to say, I'm in control, not you. You know, and you know, and that's just how they do things. Isolation. We talked about with a video with what was her name, Shelley or Elaine or something.
It was Crazy Love was the video,
Yeah.
the TED Talk, and I guess I had a few minutes. Just I was doing some stuff in the chat room, to tell you the truth. So
That's all right.
I probably built up, but
But she talked about isolation.
She said that was the one thing, and she didn't recognize it as being, because it doesn't happen for her. It didn't happen all at once. It was a series of decisions,
Right.
Where part of the decisions that were being made was the guy was making himself extremely dependent on her. He quit his job. You know, he left the city. He moved out. You know, and then she kind of went along with him, not realizing that she was being lured.
Yeah, and not only that, but he was basically saying that he loved her. He loved her so much that he quit his job so he could be around her more often. That's another thing when it comes to being menacing. You know, is where an abuser will sit there and they want every minute of your time, and they, you know, when they're available, they want you with them. You know, or there'll be things like the internet. You know, they continuously check the internet. There's ways of being able to hack into emails. There's ways of being able to find out what sites that you've been on in the internet, and you don't even know it. They could be running a program and you not even know it. That's something that I'm very familiar with in regards to one of the incidences that I dealt with. Another version is obviously sexual abuse, and this is not something that I take lightly in any way. Forced sex is not okay. It does not matter whether the person finally says yes. If they ever said no, then that's forced, and so, you know, that's something that you know, that again is inflicting the dominance in regards to that relationship. Coercion of inadequacy. You know, I mean, they're trying to make you feel as if like you're not doing enough when it comes to being sexual, or you're being cold, or you're not. You know, you could be replaced by another person, or it's like you're not woman enough in order to please me, or whatever the case. These are the types of things as to where I talk about coercion of inadequacy. Degrading, that kind of falls into it as well. But degrading, you know, could be as to where the mother or the young lady goes ahead and gets dinner ready, and she spends all this time, you know, cooking a meal, you know, for her family, and then somebody comes in and then says, you know, well, this tastes terrible, you know, without even tasting it, you know, or something like that, or, you know, just to be degrading and trying to make a person feel worse. Forced prostitution. Now that's something that I really didn't know about too much, but I have, in my research, it's amazing to find that there are abusers that are out there that they find it gratifying to them to be able to utilize the person that's abused to force them into prostitution. to be able to have another man be with their wife simply because they control it. And so that's something that I think is rather sick. But I I don't have much good to say about that. Economically, now this is something that a lot of people don't really think about, but economically is a big thing when it comes to abuse. Making the abused financially dependent to you, or in the situation with the TED Talk, he was more independent or more dependent to her, but he made her feel good about it for like it was kind of like a real psychological warfare there.
Well, it was a financial abuse, where she was really kind of financially dependent on him because he controlled all the money.
Yeah,
she made the money. He quit his Wall Street job. When they first met, she was a young girl in her early 20s, and he was around the same age. I'd sound like Ivy League educated as she was. She mentioned she went to Harvard and Wharton. He was Ivy League educated. He worked on Wall Street. At least that's what he told her, and she didn't really correct it. I mean, she phrased it as, he told me I went to. So I think it was part of the way she was telling the story. But he quit his job in Wall Street and moved out in the middle of nowhere. They relied on her job, but he controlled all the money though. Right. She was making it, but he controlled it. So in a way, she was financially dependent on him when it came to spending the money. And that's who controls the purse strings a lot of times. And
that's the next thing is what we're talking about, controlling over the finances. As to where whether you're the breadwinner, the moneymaker in the household or not, when it comes to an abuser controlling the finances, to either, number one, not allow finances to go out, or to be monitoring all the finances that are going out, in an extreme way. That's something that's an economical abuse. Another thing is keep in the dark. Some abusers have accounts that the family is not aware of. And so, those are the types of things just where credit cards, accounts, other income that's coming in, to not being forthcoming, and keeping their abused in the dark, so as to be again in control and domineering.
And isolate, right? Part of that is isolate the other person.
Yep.
If you take away all their power, all their agency, they don't even think to go out and ask for help, because you're in this relationship. Why should my first step to get help shouldn't be outside the relationship? So you look in toward the relationship, but that's where the abuse is. So all these one common theme throughout all these types of abuse, there was this sense of isolation, which to harp on it, as we've said before, it relies on that the silence. By keeping it quiet and not talking about it, that furthers the isolation.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so those are 5 different types of abuse that are out there. It's certainly not the only ones that are out there. It's not there's not just 5. There are many different ways of abuse that are out there. Those are just 5 that we decided to cover in a generalistic aspect of it. So we definitely, I do implore you to, do your own research, and look on the internet. And if you don't know of a type of abuse that you might be dealing with, but you feel that you're an abused person, it doesn't mean it's just like recovery. It's just not yet. It could be happening, or it could be in line to happen, and you just not realize it. Now, there are some problems when it goes to help an abused person. I think we always talk about how we like to help people. We want to make sure that they are valued. We want to make sure that they are safe in their own conditions and situations. But there are actually a number of problems when it comes to helping an abused person. that's not to say that not to help a person, but there's really, you want to make sure that you're doing it the quote unquote right way. And the right way is through professionals. I'll give you an example. I know in my situation, the abuser, when it was very intimidating to friends of the person that was being abused. So if she would go ahead and she would get out of the house and she would go to a friend's house, well, then the abuser would go and go to that house, to the friend's house, and not just intimidate her, but also intimidate her friends, so that they will not help her any longer, or they feel the fear of helping her is now going to affect them. Turning the family against. Again, it's that manipulation thing as to where you're all of us. You're saying, well, your daughter. She's kind of emotional, or that I'm taking care of your daughter. I would never do that or anything like that. And kind of getting the family to work, again, it's a manipulation as to where the family isn't going to understand what the abused is actually going through behind closed doors. Monitoring emails, again, we mentioned this earlier. Monitoring emails is a big thing. Everybody's on the internet, and I just told you, go ahead and do your own research. Well, there are ways of being able to get different programs that are out there to block other people from seeing what it is that you are watching. That's what I would suggest, in a situation is to at least cover yourself as to what type of programs that you can actually get, so as to make sure that when you are looking up situations or internet resources, make sure that somebody can't find out what they are.
Well, just think of in terms of domestic violence shelters. They have secret locations for a reason.
Yeah.
And so when you do reach out for help, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that you're not exposing yourself to more danger than you're already in. You're already in a lot of danger, but you don't want to put yourself into more danger by not being careful. But that's not the same thing as I'm not saying do nothing. You have to shine a light on the. You don't have to, but shining a light on this is just does work, because the silence is one of the main powers here. And shining that light is talking to somebody and telling them what your situation is, somebody that you trust. Tell them what your situation is, and then start taking those steps to eventually, whatever you have to do to make your situation, to improve your situation. A lot of times it requires a short-term separation, sure, so that you can get that little separation of physicality, so that you can get your head together. Because when you're stuck in these situations, when you're involved in these situations, when you're living in these situations, that's all you're doing is you're existing in that situation, and you're not really thinking clearly. The brain doesn't work well under stress. It just does not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not like any other type of condition or illness that's out there. It's very suppressing. It keeps you thinking. It keeps you focused on that one thing, and that's generally survival. As to where it has you thinking one way, and it's not having you thinking from a whole picture way. It's like when you're trying to just survive. You're not necessarily looking from the whole picture as to where maybe the abuser doesn't have as much control as what it is that it feels like he has. Or maybe, there are people out there that are willing to help you and go the extra mile, in order to be able to help your situation. But it's very hard in order to trust that and feel that when you're constantly in a survival mode, in a very limited picture.
Yeah, the one thing we don't want people to feel like they deserve to be abused.
Absolutely.
Nobody deserves to be in a situation like that. So if those are thoughts that you're telling yourself, that's a kind of a flag. You don't deserve that living right track.
And there's one thing that I want to say. There are certainly different illnesses that are out there that lend somebody to be more more apt to be into a domestic abuse situation. Codependency is definitely one of them. For me personally, it was one of those things as to where I did not want the relationship to end. I didn't like the way that things were going on, but at the same time, I didn't want the relationship to end, to the point to where, I started at the end when I started getting my strength, I said, I love this person very much. I don't like her very much, and when I came to realize, when I didn't like this person, but I loved the relationship. And so, that there are definitely illnesses that are out there that lend yourself to be in these types of situations. And that might be something to look at too, is by going to a doctor, a therapist, or whatever the case, to be able to make sure that you're 100%, when it comes to dealing with these types of situations and not getting into relationships like this, because we get familiar just like anything else. It's not uncommon that a person goes from one abuser to another abuser to another abuser. Why? Because they get very familiar with the situation. They're just used to it. Another thing is that, we started the show with Lisa's call. It's very common that the children that are part of the abuse situation, the family, it's very common that the children take on something that comes from that abuse, whether it be it's familiar. Therefore, it's like, yeah, my boyfriend hit me, but so my mother, my father hit my mother every once in a while. We lived through it.
Yeah, it was no big deal.
No big deal.
Times.
Right.
We distort that kind of thing. And I like before that we mentioned about, loving somebody and then not wanting to also lose the relationship. Mm-hmm. And those become kind of these, a lot of times, anchors. Love is not always enough to justify being in a relationship with somebody.
Right.
And being in a relationship with somebody is not necessarily a good thing if it's not a healthy relationship. But we let that love feeling control us, and that gets back to that TED Talk we were talking about. Her book was Crazy Love. Yep. She stayed with this guy, put a gun to her head every night for a year and a half, and she was Harvard educated. Why would she do it? She thought she was at one time she was in love with him, and she even felt that he was in love with her. Although in retrospect, she does kind of figure she was targeted. But you were saying, like, people go from one relationship to another. A lot of times, not that it's not. I'm not saying you have victim stamp on your forehead, but a lot of us engage in behaviors that we attract certain people.
Yeah.
We talk about the turning the thought thing, and then just for the sake of, I guess, a full disclosure kind of thing. Leslie Morgan Steiner. That was
there you go. That was her name. Yeah. Elaine, Christine, whatever.
But Leslie Morgan Steiner, she wrote this book, Crazy Love, and it's just
it was very impactful. So again, there are definitely illnesses that are out there. So it's like, I'm not saying that anybody's any more sick than what it is that they already are, or that they have any mental stability problems, or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying that, but there is possibility that if you see yourself going from one abuser to another abuser to another abuser, then there might be something that you need to work on, so as to be able to value yourself enough to where you're not going to get involved into a relationship that's going to contain abuse. One thing that I really want to mention, I know that we're going to be going over time, and that's okay when it comes to the show, especially the way that it started. One thing that I really want to mention about abuse when it comes to helping, 70% of all domestic violence deaths are after the relationship ends or breaks up. Now, what's that mean? Am I saying don't leave? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, when you leave, leave. Do not take it lightly. Do not do it. Don't do what it is that your friends say to do. Get somebody involved who's a professional, that's going to be able to help you to get the people who are not going to care who it is that your abuser is. They're not going to care except for the fact that he abuses you. That's all that's all that matters. It's not going to matter that he's a family member. Not going to matter that he's a friend. Not that it's going to matter that he's in a small town or that you know him or anything like that. Do not play around when it comes to leaving.
Have a plan.
Have a plan. That when I say plan, I don't mean you leave at 12 o'clock in the morning because he's not gonna be home until 1 o'clock in the morning. What I'm saying is a plan. A plan is getting a professional involved, getting a restraining order, possibly, when it comes to the police, and not going back and forth between the decision of leaving and not leaving, no matter what the situation is. In which case, that's very difficult to do, especially when you have children. Yeah. But so again, I'm not saying don't leave. That's don't get it twisted. I want somebody who's being abused, I want them to leave, but I want them to leave safely. And the only way that you can do that safely and know it is by involving people who are very familiar with these situations. They actually have a job because of these situations, and they know how to handle these situations. That's what I would suggest. Go to a domestic violence shelter, go to a shelter, go to a domestic violence lawyer, go to the police, get a restraining order. Don't just go and say, well, yeah, I'm going to go over with my best friend's house, because I can tell you that doesn't work out too well. And I know that people are going to say, well, I can't afford anything more. You can't afford not to.
Yeah, and when you leave, you want to be able to tell anybody who asks with your head held high the real reason you left.
Yep.
Don't make excuses for why you left, because what ends up happening is, and this is maybe Shane's expression, water on a grease fire. People like to salvage relationships for other people.
Yeah.
If you're not being honest with me why you left, then the only messages you're going to get back from me are going to be, give them another chance.
Yeah.
You kids can work it out. It's not as bad as it seems. Because if I don't have the information of what your situation was really like, then I'm going to give you this advice that pushes you back together. Because just as humans, that's what we do. We push people together.
Right.
We like to see people in love. We like to see people who are in love be together. But you have to have that strength to come out and say, why did you leave? Because he beats me. Because of, he whatever the reason, or, he or she. I mean, we follow this pattern of, 85% of abusers are male. So we maybe think they're all male. Well, no, there are female abusers out there. So she could be doing this. And, but it's having that openness, that honesty. It's shining the light on the abuse that's going to protect you in the end, because it's going to keep people from pushing you back.
Yeah.
Because if they know, they don't push you back. No, your true friends won't push you back into an abusive relationship if they know it's an abusive relationship.
Right.
That's not something friends do to each other, but friends do push you back if they don't know.
Yeah. And and it's not, and it's just like anything else. Like I said, with any other condition, it does not matter what it is that they think. It matters what it is that you are feeling, what it is that you're going through. So in other words, what I'm trying to tell you is, if they say, give them another chance, no, don't give them another chance. The only thing that you're giving them another chance for is for it to be worse than what it started out to be. So, so just make sure to look out for yourself, value yourself. Okay. And those who are out there who say, well, I need to stay together, because of the kids, you're not doing the kids any favors whatsoever when it comes to staying together in an abusive relationship.
Listen to that call, Lisa's call that we played at the beginning. I know we may have had some audio trouble. We've been mixing it up here a little bit. But if you haven't heard the tape, go to YouTube. Just type in Lisa's call, domestic abuse, domestic violence, little 6-year-old girl. And you can hear the voice of a 6-year-old girl on the phone with 911, and you can get a real sense of what it's like for children to live in a household where domestic violence, domestic abuse is prevalent. It is not a pretty sight. You are not doing the children any favor by staying there. So if that's your only reason for staying there, right, if you think you're doing your children a favor, please reconsider. And that's why we say talk to a professional, because a professional can give you and talk to you face to face, in person, and can help change your mind on that. Because You know, we do like our lives. We don't like people telling us that we're making bad choices. I understand that, and I'm certainly not going to be one here to pick on anybody that's in a domestic violence situation. But by shining the light on it, by talking to somebody, it gives you an opportunity, it gives all of us an opportunity in our own lives or whatever we're in to honestly assess our situation. You know, and we don't get to lie to ourselves if indeed that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, again, it's one of those things as to where don't put it on the kids. Don't put it on the kids, because you want to know what's happening. The kids are trying to hold it up for you. That's what's happening. Kids are trying to live through it for you. And that's, again, it's turning the thought. It's looking at it from a different point of view. You're sitting here hell-bent on thinking that you're doing it for the kids, when in fact it's the kids that are hanging on and going through what they're going through for you. So you know, it's just one way of looking at it. Just another way of looking at it. And again, if you're dealing with professionals, they'll help you look at it that way. Yeah. They'll help you look at different views.
Well, as I said, first and foremost, have a plan.
Yeah.
Don't just grab the kids and run out because you just heard somebody say don't do it for the kids. You know, you don't want to put your kids in any danger, any more danger than you're already in. So you're not trying to make a situation worse, and that's where the plan comes in. Having a plan can help you keep you from making the situation any worse. If you're just going to run out, then you're really risking. You're putting yourself at risk, and you're putting your children at risk. And we're not saying do that at all.
Right.
You know, have a plan, get some help, but you know, staying there and doing nothing is very rarely the right answer. I think just listening to that call from Lisa, if that doesn't clarify it for you, I'm not real sure what could.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a tough subject, and you notice that this is not our normal type of show. I'm not sitting there yelling at it, you know, and being all, you know, hyped up and trying to tell you that, you know, you're worth it, you're valued, and everything like that. You are. In this situation, I cannot implore you enough to let you know that you are valued. You are amazing. You are individually, specially, and uniquely made. And you know, it's like, but to be in this type of situation is not fair to you. It's not fair to anybody. And so, you know, I'm gonna tell you that. But I think that's pretty from us. That's a given, you know. But I'm going to tell you that. But more importantly, we're bringing awareness to this subject that is very, very dark, and it's one that's not easy to talk about. It's one that a lot of people don't want to talk about. A lot of people look at the other way around. They're saying to themselves, "Look, I'm just glad I don't have to deal with it," or they're saying to themselves, you know, it's like, I don't want to get involved because it's gonna come to me, or they're saying to themselves, well, you know, they kind of deserved it, or whatever. You know, it's like, no, nobody really wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to get involved. You know, so you know, this is why we brought the subject in. This is why we brought the awareness to the subject. This is why the Arisen Strength family is sponsoring this particular show. You know, specifically to bring awareness to the subject of domestic abuse. You know, so again, don't take it lightly. Do not rationalize it. You know, go to professionals. Another tip is keep a journal. Keep a journal with pictures if you happen to have injury. You know, in regards to the situation, because that will help when going to the professionals so that they can know which direction they need to go. So that's our show for tonight when it comes to domestic abuse. We're going to we do have a celebration moment. And this is actually a video it's a national video. I've seen it on YouTube being aired quite a bit. This is a international video to where they have a bunch of young children, young kids, young boys, and they're asking them a bunch of questions, and the boys are being happy-go-lucky, and they're answering the questions just like, you know, what's your favorite food? pizza, or or I joked with Wayne, what do you want to do when you grow up? I want to be a pizza maker or something. I'm like, well, how many people in the United States want to be a pizza maker, as a living? So I thought that was pretty cute. But as you see with this video, and we're going to come back right after the video is done, you're going to see how things turn around really quick to be able to, there's a reason as to why the fun of the questions and everything all of a sudden took a pretty dramatic turn.
How long was this video run? Did you know?
I'm gonna say like 4 minutes, 4 minutes and 30 seconds or something.
Short video.
Yeah, it's not that long at all. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. This is not a trigger warning by any means. If anything, this is a good thing, and it's part of our celebration. So enjoy the video.
Come ti chiami?
Pietro. Fulvio. Domenico.
Quanti anni hai?
11. 9 e mezzo. 7. 8.
Che vuoi fare da grande?
Il pompiere. Cacciatore. Il pasticcere. Il poliziotto. Il pizzaiolo.
Perché?
Perché voglio costruire la casa dei miei sogni. Perché mi piace guardare. Salvo le persone. È un bel ragazzo.
E lei è Martina. Che ti piace di lei?
Gli occhi mi piacciono. Le sue carte, le sue mani. Il girato, le capite. Tutto. La bambina.
E ora falle una carezza. Falle una boccaccia. E ora dalle uno schiaffo. Uno schiaffo forte. Uno schiaffo. Dai. No?
No. No. Ce la do. No. No.
No? E perché? No.
Perché? Deve gioco male. Perché le femmine non si picchiano. Perché così si fa male. E perché Dio non vuole picchiare. Prima cosa è bellina, e glielo posso dare. Perché è una ragazza, che sono popolare alla violenza. Se anche le donne non si devono toccare nemmeno con il fiore. E perché è brutto. Oppure con mazze di fiori. Perché? So. La vas a dar sulla bocca con la guancia?
Now, isn't that a great video?
That was a good video.
Yeah. The reason why I like that video, I mean, aside from the fact that it's cute and everything, and it's a great it's a great way of being able to bring it about. It's bringing it about early, early in childhood. I learned when I was very young from my family that in no way, shape, or form was it okay to inflict myself on a female in any way. And that stayed with me. It's a core belief for me. And it's one that so much so I go to the extreme. I actually will go out and I'll rescue somebody that's being abused or in that case, and I think that more of these need to come out. I think we need more of these type of commercials, these type of videos, in order to be able to show, hey man, it's cool not to hit a woman. It's cool not to sit. Let me tell you something. That girl, when what the kids were saying, no, she's pretty, and no, it's not the right thing to do, and no, I'm a man. The little guy, the smallest guy says, no, I'm a man. I'll tell you right here and now, that girl is sitting there in love with him. You know what I mean? And she totally feels valued. And you know what? Women are valued, and so are men. And I'm not just saying that women are the only ones that are abused, because there are situations as to where men are abused as well in relationships. But the bottom line is that we are all valued. We all have a purpose. We all have our special and unique ways that mean a difference. And that's what this show is all about. That's what Arisen Strength is about. It's where we try to bring out what it is that's special within us, and to make it be our strength to get through the struggles and the challenges that we're faced on a day-to-day basis. So that's tonight's show. If you want to contact us, feel free to give us our email is arisenstrength@gmail.com. On Twitter, we have our own page. It's @ArisenStrength, all one word. If you have a Twitter page and you want to get to us, use the hashtag @ArisenStrength. And of course, we have our group, the Arisen Strength family, of which I love to death. I know that a number of them are watching the show. They've already messaged us and everything. And then, of course, we have our interactive studio, of which is getting bigger and bigger as we go along. And so things are really rolling for Arisen Strength. And while we're on a roll, I figured that it's time to take on one of the tougher subjects, and I think that we did the best that we could at this time. And again, I've always said this: there's not one subject that we cover that can be handled by just one show. So we're gonna revisit domestic abuse. We're gonna revisit these types of situations on a continual basis, so as to be able to help all of those that need it, our support and our empowerment to be able to make a difference in their lives. Wayne, tough show, but I think it was something that was important.
Yeah, definitely. That was just getting a message from Google Hangouts. So hopefully we're still on the air.
Oh,
it said, if you continue to air videos for which you're not authorized to broadcast, your services will be, I think the message is even up there on the screen. If you can see it, I can see it.
Well, we'll handle that. I'm not at all worried about this. Here's the thing. We're doing what it is that we can in order to bring awareness to a tough subject. If Google has a problem with it, we'll handle that our own way. There are definitely different ways of being able to handle things. We don't need any type of problems. If I'll handle that, don't worry about that. We'll either be in Google or we'll be somewhere else. Promise you that. So anyways, that's tonight's show, folks. I love you to death. I know what it is. I know what you're going through. I know what it's like to feel broken. I know what it's like to feel suppressed, but we're going to do the best that we can in order to help you out as best as we can. And we're here to help. So thanks again for coming to the show. And we're going to see you on Thursday night's show, with the recap. Also, don't forget, we're going to be on the Journey into the Light network tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time That's going to be a show that's going to be memorable. Thanks. Have a great night.